You're stuck with me because we're going to check in. You know Cameron. Let's check in with Cameron Kennedy from CK Sport Fishing. He's out there chasing some salmon around this morning. Cameron, first things first, man, I don't see a big smile on your face. You're known for having a big smile no matter what you got going on. How's the fishing this morning?
Oh, I'm smiling. I'm smiling internally, and I got a boat full of good guys that have all fished with me a bunch of times before. This morning is a little tough. I'm not going to lie to you. This is just part of springer fishing. All diehard springer fishermen know it's been a pretty tough morning. I've seen about 4 fish caught for probably about 50 or 60 boats. It's not been stellar this morning, which is a bit not as good as it's been. So
now, Cameron is a professional. Everyone, he's out there every day doing this. He understands what happens, why things can happen. You had mentioned that as opposed to how it's been recently, today has been one of the worst mornings for you. Any reason why that might be, you think? Is it just a different day? It just happens? Or has anything changed that may have caused that?
You know what? I mean, it's just part of springer fishing. You know, I think we're fishing. You know, well, I don't think we are. We're fishing over considerably less fish than say we do in the fall. And you spend days on the water, in a row, and you're gonna have your good days. You're gonna have your grindy days. I mean, I will tell you the water temp has dropped a couple degrees in the last 2 days. From that hot spell we had last week, and I've noticed a lot more fish the last 2 days coming into my gear and my live scope and not biting as well. I don't know if that has to do with, pressure change, if it has to do with, that the temperature drop, they're not acclimated to it yet. There is quite a bit of pressure, but I'm just not seeing the volume of fish on my live scope or frankly, the volume of nets that I've been seeing the last week, 2 weeks. It's been pretty consistent. It's been pretty good fish in the last 2 weeks down here.
Yes, it has been. And oddly enough, with hundreds of boats, it seems like that are out there on the daily, it's been kept kind of tight to the chest. I mean, it's been interesting how that fishery has kind of gotten so popular and so productive in the last 5, 10 years, whatever it might be.
Oh,
but it's certainly something to keep on your radar, everyone. I got to cut to a quick break, though, Cameron. When we come back, I want to talk about how you're fishing and how you might change things up a little bit in these conditions and what you're seeing now. Is that okay?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so bear with me, Cameron. We're going to cut to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Cameron Kennedy and, again, find out how he might break this down in the situation that he's in now, because you might very well be out there yourself here in the next day or two. We'll be right back.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Yakima Bait, steeped in tradition, innovation, and fishing success. Procure Bait Sense, ruthlessly effective. And by North American Metals Incorporated, first choice for all your metal roofing and siding needs. Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor.
Welcome back, everyone. Joined in studio by Pete Fogel from Rods and Reels. And I'm just basically torturing him, making him hang out with me while we talk with Cameron Kennedy from CK Sport Fishing. He's out on the Willamette this morning. Okay, so you've already mentioned that today's a little bit slower than what it's been in the past. It's been last couple of days, I should say, or even the last week. It's been a first light bite, right? I mean, it's kind of consistent when you get warmer water this time of year. That first light bite is pretty consistently better than any time throughout the day. But you're still out there. And you said that it's a little bit tough. Fish might not be biting as much. What are you going to do to change things up a little bit? And how long will you go through this tide as you get it later on in the morning?
So this fishery specifically, there's always a pretty consistent first light bite. When I have people book trips with me this time of year, I make sure to tell them it's an early thing. If you're not an early riser, this fishery is probably not for you. Because sometimes the first 2 hours of the morning can make or break your day. I will tell you, this morning I never saw that snap. I saw a couple barges, a couple Chinook caught over by the barges. Nothing happened for me, so I came over to the west side of the river, and it just hasn't kind of panned out. As we have incoming tide right now until about, right now is about high slack up here by the power lines. There has been a pretty consistent bite about hour before, hour after tide change. I don't seem to not get bit in the afternoon. What I've noticed is when I'm seeing fish swim by my gear, typically the last 2 weeks is when I'm getting bit. Now, the most consistent bite is always going to be the first couple hours of the morning. And as this water warms up, we're fishing 65 to 68 degree water right now. A lot of guys have kind of switched to just bare spinners. I am still running some coon shrimp on my spinners. I'm just heating them up with more sulfites, and I'm still getting bit on them every day. I'm definitely getting bit on super baits as well, but again, I'm just adding, salt to my tuna, some other stuff to kind of heat it up. That stuff tends to work a little bit better as the water temp gets a little warmer. But most guys program or approach roll, or a short bust 360 flasher with a bare spinner right now. It's definitely in that magical water temperature range to where you could come out here with a bare spinner and get them just fine. So.
That's a very good point. Obviously, we always have that thought of what the temperature's doing, what kind of baits that you should be using, but I think he probably hit the nail on the head. It's what the fish are biting. Temperature is important. All those things you need to take into consideration, but if the fish just tell you that they want what they want, you overlook the temperature thing. All right, so again, warmer temperature, the sun starts coming up during the day, later on in the morning, of course, in the afternoon. What kind of depth are you seeing on your line counters to where you might be, obviously things are going to change daily, but on a day like today with that sun.
I always like to run bears, so I kind of start with a gamut of, stuff. I'll start with, 2 or 3 bear spinners, a coon shrimp spinner or 2, and then a couple super baits. I kind of let the fish tell me what they want throughout the day. Some days when it's, like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago when it was 90, 2 weeks ago when it was 90 degrees out here, and and there was a good bite in the morning and it just kind of died and you think the bite's over, you get bit at 18 feet on a chartreuse and yellow super bait. You're like, oh, well, that probably isn't going to get bit unless it's got a solid gold blade on, because, typically when it gets sunny out, I kind of dull the colors down. Your typical Mexican hatch, your Broncos, VIP Armageddon blade is always a good one. That definitely seems to do a little better first thing in the morning, but definitely as the sun comes up, sometimes I'll kind of dull my colors down, and go with a little bit more golds, bronzes, nickel blades, red beads, kind of a little more bare presentation.
What's your theory on depth on your line counter, Cameron? Do you like it in the 18s, 20 range? Do you go deeper when the sun gets higher? I mean, what's your thought as the day progresses?
So I typically don't go any deeper. I kind of stay at the numbers I'm at. And I'm typically running like 18 to 20 feet on my bow rods with 16 ounces. And then in my middle rods, I'm going like 23 to 25, 27 with 12 ounces. And my back rods, I got 10 ounces on, and all of a sudden those like 30 to 35 feet somewhere in there.
Gotcha. Okay, makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, though, you've got some very fancy technology out there with forward-facing sonar that you've already mentioned. When those fish do come up into your gear and you're able to actually, I'm being selfish here, everyone, because I have some of that technology too. So when the fish do come up into your spread and you know that they're there, you can see your gear working, you can see the fish in there. Obviously, it's very frustrating all by itself. But when those fish are being negative and they're not wanting to bite, do you do anything to maybe help out a little bit? Do you throttle it up a little bit? Do you slow it down? Do you change scent? I mean, what do you like to do?
So I will tell you that this new technology, the Garmin LiveScope I've only had since about middle of May. So I've had it for about a month, and it's been very helpful. Like you said, it's also been very frustrating. And one thing that I've learned in the last month of me having it is the more I mess with it, the more I mess with my gear, I speed up, I slow down, I drop it, I reel up a few cranks, it tends to scare them away. At least from my personal experience. I just leave it. I just leave it there, and I hope that they turn and bite it. One thing I've learned is if they're going to bite it, they're going to bite it. If they're not, they're going to swim with you for 100 yards, and you're going to be frustrated. They're going to peel off and swim away like your gear's not even there. I will tell you one thing I've also learned is how they come into my gear is when they come into my gear, if real slow and methodical and just swim with my flashers, they don't bite. I've not got one to bite that just comes in real slow. When I have one that comes in my gear or turns on it and darts around, one of my rods is about to get bit, I can promise you. 99% of the time. When they come in aggressive and they're darting from rod to rod, or they're swimming the other way and they turn really quick, they're about to eat.
All of that he just said is exactly what I have experienced as well. Although, Cameron, I will tell you that I can't not do something when they come.
I know it's hard.
It's so hard.
I know it's hard. You definitely want to try to get them to bite.
You do it.
I've had a lot of people say, oh, it's having the live scopes cheating. It helps you catch more fish. I don't believe that to be true. You can't make them bite. I've had considerably more fish come into my gear, follow my gear, and not bite it than I've seen actually bite my gear.
Yeah, I would agree. I've heard the same thing. I would rather know that they're there and know that I failed than not know that they were there. So, I mean, there's obviously pros and cons to everything. And like 100%. You mentioned, I have found that it can be very frustrating as well. But again, I want to know now that I can. I want to know if they're in and out of there and if there's something that I can do differently. But I think you just said it perfectly. Leave it alone, because I have noticed the same thing. That if they come in active and they're jumping around and really trying to get a good look, those are the ones that are excited and they might want to bite. But the ones that are lethargic, that are just hanging out with their maybe what they think is their buddy, they don't turn and bite. So yeah, frustrating.
They don't.
But when you do get bitten, you can see it. It's worth everything. It's worth it all.
Well, I will tell you, since I've had it up until today, I've watched at least one fish come into my gear and bite every single day for the last month. So it has already paid for itself. My clients love it. Yeah. I love it. It has been a very fun and a very useful tool, and like you said specifically, like I'm just going to keep fishing over fish. Just because they're coming in my gear and they're not biting doesn't mean the next one that comes through isn't going to bite.
Correct.
So I'm going to keep myself in a position, if I'm seeing fish, to where I'm going to stay on top of them. I'm not going to go back over to the east side of the river when I'm seeing fish on the west side of the river every pass in my gear.
Yeah, that's a great point, Cameron. As always, though, we appreciate you spending a few minutes with us, just sharing what you're seeing out there real time.
Absolutely.
I was hoping that we might bring a little bit of luck to you, because I know it's going to happen. As soon as we wrap it up here, you're going to catch one.
Oh, yeah.
But everyone, if you have that chance to get out with Cameron, here's his information for you on the television screen. Get a hold of him, get out and go do some fishing. I've been told that you're taking July off, but starting in August, folks, if you can get out there with Cameron, that's the time to do it. Cameron, again, as always, thanks for spending a few minutes with us, bud. Good luck today, okay?
Thank you, Owen. I appreciate you having me on the show. Have a good rest of your day.
You too, bud. Good luck, and don't get too sunburned out there. Hopefully you can get a fish.
Oh, I won't. Don't worry.
All right, everyone, before we wrap this segment up, we do have a call that came in. I want to try to answer it. It looks like a good one. We'll find out. I've got Kent from Gresham that has a question about shad fishing on the Columbia. Kent, what's going on?
Find out how many poles you can use at the shad rack.
Go ahead and ask that again, Kent. We didn't bring you up fast enough. What was your question for everyone?
My question is, how many rods can we use at the shad rack?
How many rods can you use at the shad rack for shad fishing, salmon fishing, steelhead fishing, any species at all on the Columbia? You're only allowed one rod per person, period. Doesn't matter what species you're going after. Okay?
Okay. All right, that sounds good, but hey, I truly appreciate your help.
You're welcome, man, and trust me, with the 2-rod endorsement literally available to everyone everywhere other than the Columbia, it's one of the dumbest things. It can be confusing, and we all get it, Kent, but I hope it helps, man. Good luck when you get out there, and please be safe in that zone, okay? All right, we're going to cut to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have your Pike Minnow reward numbers for you, as well as give you an idea of what we got going on for this upcoming weekend, which just what I'm looking at, we're absolutely buried again. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Chevy Silverado and the impressive Turbo Max engine. Flex your muscle with the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. Official truck of Outdoor GPS.